Welcome everyone, it's so great to see your faces again. Today we're going to talk more about compassion. Being compassionate is not always easy. Sometimes we have to take risks in order to ease someone's hurt or suffering. We can be brave to jump in, share, protect, and speak up for others. Help me finish these sentences about how people can be brave. Mia has extra food in her pantry. She can be brave and
wonder if she could see with her parents and see if she could give the food to a food pantry or somewhere that needs it.
Taylor is a lifeguard. When someone is struggling in the water, Taylor can be brave and
This one seems a little more obvious, but I think that Taylor should jump in and help the person.
I agree. Jaden sees a friend picking on a younger child. Jaden should be brave and
It may be hard, but I think Jaden should stick up for the younger child. Stick up to the person bullying them because it's not okay.
Sam notices the teacher never calls Kai by the name they prefer. Sam should be brave and
Maybe talk to Kai about it, ask how you feel, but also possibly bring it up with the teacher in a kind of a private conversation. It may be difficult, right? Maybe weird, but maybe just talk to them about it.
Miss Perez notices her students are restless and need a break. Miss Perez can be brave and
I think, even though this again would be hard because maybe as a teacher they want to always be learning and helping, but maybe recognize that, yeah, they do need a break, they need to breathe, they need to rest, and yeah, they can take a little break and relax for a second.
And this is the last one. Dr. Guin hears some people need medical care but cannot afford it. Dr. Guin can be brave and
Maybe Dr. Guin could help these people just kind of on the side without having to charge too much for it, or maybe he can help them find a facility that will offer services for little to no cost. This is what our song today is going to be about and what our theme for the day is. I want to introduce our song. It's called Brave Enough. And it's important to recognize that being brave doesn't mean that we're never going to be scared. It doesn't mean that we're not going to be uncomfortable. It's okay to feel those things. It's okay to feel scared, uncomfortable, not know what to do. It's okay to ask others for help in learning how to be brave and compassionate. So let's sing our song together today. It's called Brave Enough. The lyrics for this song can be found in the Week 1 plastic bag in a document titled Song Sheets.
Sometimes our compassion can help us make brave choices. When we do, look out. God's power can restore our communities, friendships, and ourselves. Later, we will hear a story about some heavy lifting, a massive hole, and some neighbors who took a risk to help a friend. We will see how one act of bravery changed a community. As we prepare to learn more about brave compassion, let's begin with a compassion prayer.
We're going to do the same thing we did last week. One hand on your head, one hand on your heart. Remember, compassion happens here in the head, but we feel it in the heart. It comes from both places. So repeat after me. The words are different this week, so pay attention. Dear Jesus,
Dear Jesus,
your compassion always looked like courage.
your compassion always looks like courage.
Strengthen our hearts with your bravery
Strengthen our hearts with your bravery
as we risk, reach out, and lift up.
as we risk, reach out, and lift up.
Our siblings near and far.
Our siblings near and far.
Help us keep our eyes on you.
Help us keep our eyes on you.
We're so glad that you are with us today, and we're excited for us to continue to do the craft, to do the movement and yoga portion, the Bible story, all the portions that are in today. We're excited for you all to experience together. But first is our Bible story. So here you will hear this story about compassion, but also being brave.
Hi, boys and girls. I am so excited to be with y'all again this week for our second week of Vacation Bible School. You know, last week we talked about how compassion helps us to see and welcome. Remember the story about the prodigal son and how his father was so excited to welcome him home, even though he had not been the ideal son, and how the brother was so jealous. But the father explained to him it was because of his love that he missed his son, but he loved him equally. Compassion is such a wonderful thing. This week, we're going to talk about how compassion helps us to be brave. Sometimes what we see and hear isn't always what is true. In our story today, you may see some things and hear some things that you might think that couldn't have happened back then, but there are going to be things that you will see and hear that were very true. In your life every day, you're going to hear things and see things that may not be true, and you've got to know the difference. So, I challenge you, boys and girls, to listen and see very carefully as you're watching and hearing the Bible story today. And we're going to talk a little bit later to see and hear what you may have missed or caught. Pay attention. Oh man, look at all of this mess. This is the biggest mess. I've just got so much to clean up. I'm never going to get all this cleaned up. I didn't realize y'all were already here. I apologize. I'd planned on having everything look so much better than this before you got here. Oh, you didn't hear? Jesus came by earlier. Let me tell you all about it. It is a great story, but I ended up with a hole in my roof and this big mess. Let me sit down and tell you. Oh, wow, I'm tired. Well, it seems that we were all excited because Jesus came by today and to teach and preach and just share so many stories with us. We were so excited. In fact, the word got out, and there wasn't enough room in my house. They were lined up in the streets. There were so many people. And, well, as he was preaching and teaching, some of our other friends heard about it. And we have this friend that's been paralyzed. You know what paralyzed means? It means he couldn't walk for a long time. And because he couldn't walk, it made him very sad, and there's a lot of things he couldn't do. So, our friends went and got him. They made this stretcher And they got to the house. They carried him all the way on this stretcher from his house to my house. And when they got here, they couldn't even get through the crowds hardly. But when they did get through the crowds, there was no way possible they were going to get through the door with him. So they got the idea to crawl up on my roof and tear a big hole in my roof and lowered him down into the living room. Look at this mess. There is sticks and roofing just everywhere. I'm never going to get all this clean. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm missing the story here. But anyway, so all of a sudden, when this hole is coming down through my roof, and I see my friends lowering our friend on this stretcher, Jesus is watching along with everybody else. And when he gets lower down here, it's explained to Jesus the reason they did this and were so persistent. They knew that if anybody could help our friend, it would be Jesus. So, because of that, and because we loved our friend so much, Jesus saw that. And he said that because of our love for our friend, he would heal him. He would heal him. Heal him. Imagine that, healing him. So he just looked up at him and said, pick up your mat and go home because you're healed. When Jesus was telling this story in the synagogues, and the scribes were furious. And they said, there's no way that happened. There's just no way that happened because God's the only one that has the power to heal. And Jesus looked at him and says, oh, ye of little faith. Because of their love, he was healed. And his sins were forgiven. Wow. That's just really hard to believe that something like that could happen. Well, the scribes were angry, and they didn't have a response or anything, so they just walked away in astonishment. You know, how would we feel? Well, I know one thing for sure. I've enjoyed visiting with y'all, but man, there's still a lot to get done and everything, and I can't even see all this. Let me turn some light on over here so I can see it. It's just even more of a mess. And look at the time. Wow, it's getting late. I've got to get this cleaned up. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in the vacuum, and I'll have to just see y'all later, okay? I've got to finish cleaning. Bye, boys and girls. Well, boys and girls, what'd you think? Today's story was about Jesus healing the friend and trying to convince the scribes of what had really happened. You saw it. Did you see some things that you thought, that couldn't have happened? Well, there were at least 4 things that really didn't happen back then. But there were at least 4 things that really did happen back then. Can you think of the 4 things that probably didn't happen back then? What was one of them? That suspicious looking lamp on that table. I don't think there was electricity back then. And then, number 2, what about that cell phone that I picked up to see what time it was? I don't think that happened back then either. Number 3, that big orange vacuum cleaner. Boys and girls, they were good to have a straw broom back then. That vacuum cleaner was not there, even though they would have loved to have it. But the 4th one I bet you missed, my glasses. They didn't have glasses back then, but they would have liked it because Miss Marie's really glad that I have my glasses. Well, let's think about for a minute the things that were true. You may have thought, there's no way somebody climbed up on a roof and lowered their friend through a ceiling. It really happened. And you may have thought, there's no way Jesus could have healed somebody right there. He did. And how would Jesus have been able to Saved them of their sins? Because he was God's son. That was his reason for being here. And also, the fact that we are to be compassionate and brave. It's very true. You know, we said our theme today was compassion helps us to be brave. Sometimes we are called to be brave. Now, we're not all going to be superheroes, but we can be brave. We have to be brave. We have to stand up for our friends that are being bullied. We have to stand up and speak out for what we believe in, but we have to do it with compassion. We can't tell people and use the S word that they're stupid. Shh, we don't like that word. Or they're dumb. That's horrible. That's not the way to do things. We embrace them in God's love. We show them with our actions and our words how to be brave and what's right and what's wrong. Now, did you color your picture from last week? Well, we have a new one this week that you're going to be joining Amanda, and you're going to be joining Reagan, and you're going to color about how to be a neighbor, how to be a neighbor, how to be a friend, how to be brave. You can do this. Enjoy your time with the girls, and remember, compassion helps us to be brave. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.
We've now come to our coloring portion. Tonight, you're going to pull out this sheet that looks like this color kind of blue-green top, to the neighbor. And we'll feel free just to color this in for the next few minutes as we listen to our theme song for the day, and then we will move on to the next section.
2, 3, 4. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We can be brave. We can be brave because we're filled with love from the bottom of God's heart. We can be brave. We can be brave. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We can be brave. We can be brave because we're filled with love from the bottom of God's heart. Because we're filled with love from the bottom of God's heart. We can be brave. We can be brave. We can be brave. We can be brave.
come to the end of our coloring time. Like we've been doing, if you aren't done, that's totally okay, but we do ask you put down the colored pencil, crayon, marker, whatever you're using to color your blob. Go ahead and put that down for the day, and after, you feel free to pick it right back up then. Right when we're over tonight with the whole video, feel free to finish the coloring. Make sure to cut your blob out and to tape on the back to put the string for the week on, and we will now move on to the next portion. Thanks.
Hello and welcome to day 2 of Craft and Play. Today we're going to talk about being brave. What are some situations in which you might be brave? Maybe you could stand up for a friend who is being bullied at school. Maybe you can step back and let somebody who is younger take a turn before you go in a game. Maybe you could go without something so somebody else can have. Maybe you can make a sacrifice and go without something so somebody who is needy can have something that they need. Think about where your compassion makes you brave as we consider our Bible story today. Our activity for today is a kindness hug. In our Bible story, we heard about some brave people who helped their friend. Have you ever felt brave? Maybe you stood up for a friend who was being teased, or had to try something new like learning to ride a bike without training wheels. Being brave is choosing what to do, what you know is right. It might be uncomfortable. Spreading kindness and showing compassion helps us to be brave. Think about someone who you may know who might need a spark of happiness in their lives with all the things that are going on now in this hard time. Snail mail a hug to them. This is our kindness hug. The first thing you need to do is trace your right hand on a piece of paper. Then trace your left hand on a piece of paper. Use scissors to cut out your hands. Decorate your hands with crayons, markers, paint. Cut a string. Punch a hole in your hands that you have cut out. And attach the string to make a kindness hug. When you have finished making your kindness hug, also make a card to include with your hug. Send it to a person who you know may be having a hard time now. Someone who is lonely, someone who is sick, or may not have any family around. It will brighten their day and let them know that you and God loves them. Also, you can make a story about how compassion enables you to be brave. We talked earlier about how you might do that. Standing up for someone who is being bullied, giving somebody or helping somebody get what they need while you do without something, or making sacrifices to help others. Compassion makes us brave.
As the Amy's just talked to us about, over the next few minutes, we are inviting you to do one of two things. The first one is to make a kindness hug for someone, and you do this by tracing both hands on the provided construction sheet of paper that's in your plastic bag for today. Cut those out after you trace them, and then poke a hole in them and connect them with a string. After that, feel free to decorate or even write a note to go along with it. Send this kindness hug to a friend or a family member that you think needs it. The second option is to write or draw a story about how you can be brave. This can be done on the comic style sheet that is also in the plastic bag for today. We invite you over the next few minutes to choose one of those activities to do. If you don't have time to finish it, it's okay. We will invite you to simply do that later tonight after VBS is over. But for now, we invite you to do one of these two activities for the next few minutes as the music plays.
4. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We can be brave. We can be brave because we're filled with love from the bottom of God's heart. We can be brave. We can be brave. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We can be brave. We can be brave because we're filled with love from the bottom of God's heart. Because we're filled with love from the bottom of God's heart. We can be brave. We can be brave. We can be brave. We can be brave. I have love to share with the whole wide world, and I start with loving myself. When I take good care of my heart and soul, I have love for everyone else. I love me so I can love you. God loves me so I can love you. I have love to share with the whole wide world, and I start with loving myself. When I take good care of my heart and soul, I have love for everyone else. I have love to share with the whole wide world, and I start so I can love you. When I take good care of my heart and soul, I have love so I can love you. I have love to share with the whole wide world, and I start so I can myself. When I take good care of my heart and soul, I have love so everyone else. I love me, and I start so I can love you. When I Todd loves me, so I can love you. I have love to share with the whole wide world, and I start so loving myself. When I take good care of my heart and soul, I have love for everyone else. I love me, so I can love you. God loves me, so I can love you.
Thanks for joining us in the crafts, the create and play portion. Now we're going to move to our yoga or movement portion of tonight. So wherever you are in playing or creating, we ask you to put it down for just a few minutes and join us somewhere on the ground, wherever is comfortable for you.
Yoga began as a spiritual practice in ancient India, centering on bringing the mind, body, and spirit into oneness with the divine. This meaningful practice has grown globally, with people of all faiths and belief systems finding nourishment in different variations, a powerful reminder of how we learn from one another. When we say Namaste, we connect with siblings across the world. Breathing is the heart of yoga, and breath itself is a physical way to receive and release. As we reflect on the ways compassion makes us release, accept, and welcome, we will focus on breath alongside some basic yoga poses.
Welcome, welcome. Come on in. Now you can be barefoot or with your socks on. That might help you to move with ease as we do our yoga. But before we start, every day we are going to do a deep breath in and out. Now I want you to give yourself a big ol' hug, and we're gonna fall over. This is gonna stretch a little bit and get you warmed up. We're gonna swing back and forth. Don't forget to breathe. Good. Now we're going to slowly reach to the floor and roll up. Let your head be last. Great. One more deep breath. And out. Shake it on out. Yes. We're ready to get started. And let's go. Okay, remember to focus on your breathing, and I'll walk you through everything. Let's have a seat. Legs crossed. Good. We're going to inhale. And exhale. Inhale, I am. Exhale, breathe. Inhale, I am. Exhale, breathe. One more time. I am. Breathe. Good. Now we're going to slowly stand up. Good. Arms up. And down, over. You can either touch the floor or your shins here. Bring your hands up to your knees and look out. Breathe in. We prepare and focus our eyes forward. Good. Slowly come down. You can either jump your feet out or step one out at a time. Plank. And through. We face the sun and welcome with courage what this day holds for us. Good, and slowly come up to downward facing dog. We're going to take our right foot and step through to meet between our hands. Slowly raise up. Really find your center and your balance. So warrior one. In Warrior One, we feel focus, power, and stability. We are strong and brave. And back down. And bring that right foot back. Downward facing dog. And then your left foot through. Good. Back up to Warrior One. In. And out. Back down. Downward facing dog. Either slowly step in or jump your feet in. Rise up slowly. Arms up and down to Namaste. The light in me sees the light in you. Great job. See you next time.
Welcome back, everybody. We're glad you're with us again. How was the second week of Compassion Camp?
I thought it was great.
Yeah, me too. How much fun is it to move around and do some yoga poses and stuff like that? Is it good? You enjoyed it?
I think so.
Yeah, I'm sure y'all did too. We're glad that you all are experiencing all of it. Last week, we talked about empathy, and this beginning of empathy is being able to see others, because only then when we see the pain and hurt and feelings and happiness, only then can we really truly experience it. And then today is kind of the second part, and that part is being brave. It's taking steps and courage and tough things to show up even when we don't know what's going to happen. Our Bible story today showed a lot of that. The man who was injured, who was paralyzed, he didn't know if his friends would help. The friends who ended up helping didn't know what would happen when they got to the house where Jesus was. They didn't know if the religious leaders would kick him out, people would yell at them, what they would say, and what would happen. They didn't know what would happen when they dug a hole in the roof. But they still did it because they had great compassion for their friend. And that is the next step, acting on it and being brave.
Now that you've read the story, think about these questions. How were the friends brave? How was the friend who was paralyzed brave? And who else do you think was brave in the story? Compassion helped each of them be brave. The friend who was paralyzed had courage that helped him trust his friends and Jesus for help. The friends' courage made them determined to do all they could do to help them. And Jesus' courage showed the friend who was paralyzed he was loved and accepted. We can be brave because we are filled with God's love, and God always promises to be with us. Let's sing our song, Brave Enough, together.
When we see people are sad, lonely, happy, joyous, even yawning, when we see those things, we are able to feel those things and to experience them. We're able to empathize. Remember, that's the first step that we talked about last week, and today we talked about the next step, which was being brave, acting on it, showing compassion to our neighbors, to those in need, to everyone. But part of being brave is realizing things are going to be hard. They're not the easy decisions to be brave, right? Like these come with things that are scary, things that are uncomfortable. But we can trust that God gives us the courage to be able to overcome that.
Let's end the same way that we began. With one hand on your head and one on your heart, repeat after me. Dear Jesus,
Dear Jesus,
your compassion always looked like courage.
your compassion always looked like courage.
Strengthen our hearts with your bravery
Strengthen our hearts with your bravery
as we risk, reach out, and lift up
as we risk, reach out, and lift up
our siblings near and far.
our siblings near and far.
Help us keep our eyes on you.
Help us keep our eyes on you.
Amen.
Amen. I'm so glad you were with us today. As we learn about being brave, as we learn the next step in showing compassion, we will see you next week. Bye, all.
2, 3, 4. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are and tell the truth. We are brave enough to love. We are brave enough to show compassion. We are brave enough to listen and tell the truth. We can be brave. We can be brave because we're filled with love from the bottom of God's heart. Because we're filled with love from